Now let's discuss page layout customization, which is by far the most common type of customization you'll be doing to your generated application. We use a very simple spreadsheet metaphor for laying out your page in IronSpeed Designer. You'll find it's very easy to drag and move fields around to insert rows and columns and to add controls from a fully data-bound toolbox into your generated web application. Moreover, you can adjust cell, row, and table attributes to change or alter the display, and you can even extend those to a more global footing by modifying or customizing the cascading style sheet that your application has. Now, the great thing about all of this is, again, you don't have to be a developer to customize most of your page layout. You don't have to have any knowledge of code, ASPX, or .NET principles to modify page layout or adjust a lot of the stylistic attributes of your page. Now, if you are going to be doing some cascading style sheet customization, you do need to have a little bit of knowledge about style sheet classes, how those work, and the style attributes. But if you're not doing any heavy-duty style sheet modification, no knowledge of .NET is required. Modifying the page layout is very simple. IronSpeed Designer uses a Microsoft Excel-like spreadsheet that we call the Quick Layout Spreadsheet to present and manipulate a logical representation of your page. So, for example, in the screen here we have 4 columns, A through D, and 7 rows. And as you can see, we have a customer record here that has customer name, address, and phone information. You simply grab a field and drag it over to the cell that you want. So essentially every control, every panel is represented as a control name within this spreadsheet. And so to change the layout, you just simply manipulate the spreadsheet. When you're ready, IronSpeed Designer will generate the page from this spreadsheet. But again, what you're going to see is going to be then a 4-column by 7-row actual page. So IronSpeed Designer is going to take responsibility for generating the table TR-TD tag complex at the HTML or ASPX level. Inserting rows and columns, merging rows and columns, and so forth works the same way it does in a spreadsheet. You do this by right-clicking and selecting Insert, Remove, or Merge and Split to accomplish those operations. In fact, most anything you can access through the right-click menus in IronSpeed Designer. IronSpeed Designer also has a toolbox which is extremely powerful. As you can see, it contains fields, labels, panels, third-party controls, ASP.NET controls, and so forth. In the case of fields, labels, panels, and so forth, those are all data-bound controls. So instead of dragging a list box or a text box onto your page and then hooking it up by hand, instead what you're going to be doing is dragging over customer name and freight and ship name and things like that, essentially entities from your database that are fully data-bound. IronSpeed Designer does all the hookup for you, so you don't have to. Therefore, you're dealing really with the logical entities in your database, not with individual control types on your pages. Now, on some of the more complex control types, after you add those to your quick layout spreadsheet, you may see a configuration wizard appear. That'll allow you to more finely tune how you want that particular panel control or third-party control to operate. And those wizards will change based on the type of control. So let's jump in back to IronSpeed Designer now and modify a page. Okay. I'm going to start with this page. It's a Show Customers page. And as you can see, it's got a record control at the top, which has my name, ship address, and so forth. Below, it's got a database view, quarterly orders, and it's got an orders table showing me all of my orders, not just the ones in the current quarter. So what I'd like to do is rearrange this record panel a little bit because the address isn't laid out the way I normally would prefer. For example, we've got the street address here, the city, the region, or what we'd call state, postal code, and so forth. It kind of pings-pongs back and forth. And what I'd really like to do is have a better alignment. Now down here in the orders, you can see it's a nice orders summary table. But what I'm going to do is clean this up a little bit, maybe remove a few rows because it's really a summary table. But I'll also turn it into a master detail table by adding a panel of line item details for each of my orders, essentially converting this into a parent, child, and then grandchild page. Okay, to do that, I'm going to click from Live Preview over to Design Mode. Design Mode in ISB Designer is where you'll do the vast majority of work in the tool. Now, here I am, as you can see, already on my record control. And you can see that if you look up here in the top in the breadcrumb navigation that I'm on the Customer Fields section of the page. And here I have my 4 columns by 6 rows representing my address. We'll use the breadcrumb a little bit later to navigate to other parts of the page. But as you can see, it goes all the way back to your application's master page. Now, I mentioned I wanted to change the layout a bit, so let me start by opening up a row here. So I'm going to do an insert row, and I'll do that above. And I'll move my city over here. Then we have my region. And because this is a European address, I'm going to move my postal code in there right after the region. And because I really don't need a label that says it's a postal code, I'm going to delete that. Then we've got our country, which is great. I'm going to move my phone number up here just so it's not kind of hanging out there. And I'll move my fax over there. So what I'm left with now is a 4-column by 6-row layout. Okay? So that's the first set of customizations that I can do, but what I just simply want to reiterate is that it's a very simple drag and drop process. Moreover, I can put multiple things in a cell, which is very convenient. Okay? Now, I mentioned that I wanted to modify the order table that's below. So to do that, I'm going to navigate using my breadcrumb here, and I'm going to go all the way back to my Show Customers page. And you can see on my page, I've got my record control, which is where I just was. I've got my quarterly orders table control. That's the database view. And I've got the orders table control. That's the one that I want to modify. So I'm just going to click on that. And I'm going to keep zooming in now by going into the panel and then into the fields. Okay? So you just simply zoom in and zoom out using the layout spreadsheet itself and the breadcrumb up here. Okay. I mentioned that I was going to remove a few of the extraneous fields because it is kind of a summary table. So while I have required date, I probably don't need the, or I have the order date, I probably don't need the required date or the ship date. That's kind of extraneous, so I'm just going to delete those. The next thing that I'm going to do is remove those columns, so I'll just do that a couple of times here. So we've removed that column. And maybe I'll go over here, and again, since it's a summary, I probably don't need the, let's say the postal code, for example. And we'll remove that. Okay. Now, I mentioned that I wanted to turn this into a master detail table panel. And so to do that, what I'm going to do is add in the order line item details. So I'll put that in another column. So I'm going to right-click, insert column, and I'll put that to the left. So that's opened up a place there. I'm going to click over to my toolbox now. I'm going to select panels. Now, I have a variety of different panel types that I can select from. These particular panels here are all related by the foreign key or virtual foreign key relationships that I had selected before. Now, I mentioned that I wanted to add an order detail panel, so I'm going to expand that. And as you can see, I've got a diverse array of different types of order detail panels I can select from. So just kind of scanning through, you can see that I can add and edit. I can do emailable, which has fewer features on it, and so forth. In this case, I'm going to select Show Table panel. So essentially I'm going to show all of the order details. So I'm just going to grab that, and we'll put it over there. And that's going to display the configuration wizard for this. Now there's a lot of different options I can pick from here. You can just kind of scroll through them. In fact, I can turn on buttons both atop the panel as well as within the row. Those are turned off by default in this case because this happens to be an interior table panel. I'm just going to accept those defaults, but I do want to call your attention to the fact that you can modify that. Next, we can select what fields we want, for example, product ID and so forth, so you can opt in or opt out on those. If you happen to have enabled search, you can select which filters to participate in the search. If you wanted to put filters atop the table, you can select what you want there. I'm just going to leave those as is and click Finish and complete the addition of my table panel here. So now what I have is an order details table control that's going to appear in the middle of my orders. So essentially I've got a table within table. Now I'm going to click on Live Preview and go back to my page to see all of the modifications that I've made here. Okay. The yellow bar that you saw moving across the screen at the top was IronSpeed Designer recreating or regenerating the page. The blue bar here that's moving across now is the .NET Framework compiler recompiling your page and the associated code files. Unfortunately, that takes 20 or 30 seconds, which is the normal .NET compilation time. So we just have to wait for that. And there we have it. Okay, so let's review the changes that we've made so far. First, I changed the layout of my customer record panel up here to make my address a little more pleasing, and I moved my phone and fax together over here. Next, if I click over to orders, you'll notice several things. Probably the most prominent change is the fact that there's now a table within each row. So just to reiterate, I have a table within table here. So we have an outer table where the outer rows here represent the individual orders, and we have an inner table here where the records represent the individual line items of that outer order. So we have a parent, child, grandchild relationship going on. And of course, I removed a few of the extra columns, so it's a little bit tighter presentation.